Welcome back to The Point. This is our first one-hour program, and a number of important races will be profiled over the next several weeks. In fact, the show will be 1 hour from now through the primary, and right now we are happy to have with us the Republican candidates from the 7th U.S. Congressional District. One of these three men looking to face off against Mark Schauer in the general election in November. Let's welcome Tim Walberg, Brian Rooney, and Marvin Carlson. Gentlemen, thank you all three for being here. It's nice to have you. Let's talk about the race, but first let's talk about each other. Let's introduce and make sure everybody knows who we're talking to. Mr. Rooney, let's start with you. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. I come from the Rooney family, which is out of Pennsylvania. My grandfather was Art Rooney that founded the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was a Marine officer I pinned on second lieutenant in 1998, and then I got out of active duty Marine after 2006. I was in Iraq between 2004 and 2005. I went in the summer, came back in the spring, and I joined a conservative constitutional law firm in Washtenaw County when I left active duty Marine Corps, and I worked there in Thomas More Law Center for about a little over 3 years. And then I have a son that was born with a congenital heart defect, and he spent a lot of time at University of Michigan Mott Children's Hospital. And through that whole process, it was really the tipping point for me wanting to get involved in the congressional race. I wasn't appreciative of how Mark Schauer, our current congressman, was dealing with the health care debate, let alone a myriad of other issues that he voted against, I believe, the interest of the district. And that was the decision-making point for me wanting to get involved in this race.
Mr. Rooney, why did you decide to run?
You know, when I was a Marine Corps officer, I was always taught, and I always taught my Marines, that you leave a place better than you found it wherever you go. And I grew up with Ronald Reagan, and, you know, Ronald Reagan instilled upon me the notion, the belief that every generation has incumbent upon them the responsibility to pass the next generation a country that's more prosperous and more free. I believe Mark Schauer and the current administration are going to leave this country less prosperous and less free. And I have 3 young children, and the specter of them not inheriting a country that I inherited or even better is something that I was not willing to settle for. I believe my children have the right, and I have the responsibility to leave them a country that is more prosperous and more free. And I'm not someone that accepts the notion that we're a country on the decline. I believe in the shining city on the hill, that we can be a great nation again, we can be a great state again. You know, the old saying, as GM goes, so goes the nation. It really is, as Michigan goes, so goes the nation. If we can get Michigan back to work, then we can get the rest of the country moving forward. And, you know, to me, it was all about my children. And when I think about my children's future here in Michigan, 2 of them being born here, one of them's life being saved here, I want them to have an opportunity right here in Michigan after they graduate college or high school. And right now, too many of our young men and women are leaving the state. And we just went under 10 million people the first time since, I believe, the 50s or 40s. And that trend has to stop. We have to have in people's attitudes around this country and in the state that, hey, Michigan is open for business. Michigan is a great place to do business or start business. We got to welcome people back here, welcome new people here, keep our own people here as well.
Mr. Rooney, I heard you mention the health care debate a minute ago. And I heard, not anybody at this table, by the way, but I heard a candidate for Congress recently say, we can't wait. We have to overturn the health care plan right now. Fact of the matter is that unless there are big changes in the numbers in the House of Representatives, nothing changed with the health care bill. One of the things you talked about was you didn't like the health care bill, or to be accurate, I think you said you didn't like the way Mr. Congressman Schauer was supporting that bill. But unless you're get into a majority, there's not much you can do about that, is there?
Well, the full health care bill doesn't get fully implemented until 2014, so we have a presidential election between then and when that gets implemented. Hopefully it'll be a Republican president next time, and you know, I'm not naive to think that you cannot repeal and replace while President Obama is still our president. He'll just veto anything, but in the meantime you work and fix what you can. And then hopefully we get a new president and he doesn't fully implement the bill. And then we replace it with something more conservative and a bullet-by-bullet approach rather than the shotgun approach that we got from the Democrats now in Congress, including Mark Schauer, who took credit for writing large swaths of it as well, I might add. So there are things you can do even in the minority. If you are in the minority, it depends on how robust a minority you are. If I am in the minority, then one of the priorities I would have would be to stop the Obama agenda, stop cap and trade from getting passed, some of the other programs, this comprehensive immigration reform that President Obama wants to do. These are some of the things that need to be stopped and worked on in a more conservative fashion. And if we do take the House back, then we can work towards moving this country back to the center-right country that we are and getting people back to work. The number one thing that people talk to me all the time about, and the over 10,000 doors that my team has knocked on, is the first thing they say is, I need a job. They don't want a handout. They don't want unemployment extended. They want the dignity of a job. And so that's what I would first and foremost be concentrated on, is helping people create the environment to get back to work. The small business entrepreneur, the existing businesses here, the people that may want to move here to Michigan to start a business. We need to become not one of the worst business environments in the country. We need to become one of the best.
Back to the point, we are talking about the 7th Congressional District. There is a Republican primary. Democrat Mark Schauer is not challenged. She'll be on that general election ballot, as will one of these men. Mr. Rooney, we don't have a whole lot of time left, so let's talk about this a little bit. We've heard talk about health care. We've heard talk about jobs. We've heard talk about spending, getting back to the roots of the party, doing all of these things. But what is it that you think is the most vital thing that you can take to Washington? If you're elected, you get sworn in January, what is it that you can do that will really change the lives of the people in the 7th District?
Well, it's new leadership. It's new blood. It's a proven record of service to this country that I have through the Marine Corps that's not tainted by Washington, D.C. I've been a citizen soldier. Now I want to be a citizen legislator. I've been a constitutional attorney. I've dealt with constitutional issues across this land. And I've been a soldier, a Marine. I've fought in Iraq, and I've been able to represent the veterans of this district that, we have very many of them here. I've also been involved in family business for a long period of time and intimately involved in the health care debate with my own child. So I have life experiences that I'll use the wisdom that I've gained through my life. I'll use in crafting any legislation that comes before me or that I create myself. And that's what I believe the Founding Fathers wanted.